Aloha, welcome. I hope you're all doing well. So today's video is all about updating my basic bodice block pattern. The reason for this is because I've been fluctuating in size, and I also wanted to make tops, crop tops, normal tops. So I decided to update my basic bodice block pattern. I already made two tops using this pattern, and I'll be making more using the same pattern, so stay tuned and watch to the end. Let's get started. So these are the tools I used to create my basic bodice block pattern. So I we did my measurements. So first I usually create structure on my pattern paper. Just draw a line, 1-inch line up and at the side, no biggie. Next, I'm going to input all my vertical measurement. I'm going to start with the neck. So the neck, my neck measurement, that's my neck circumference divided by 4, or you can do divided by 5. This is just a foundation pattern. So if I want to create any style, I can just easily adjust the neck to whatever design I want to make. So I'm going with the divided by 4. Yep. So I'm just going to mark that out vertically. Next is my armhole depth. My armhole depth divided by 2. Then I added 1.5 inches for my shoulder slant. I'm used to adding 1.5 inches because anytime I do the calculation, that's the back width divided by is it 10 or something. Check my previous video, you see that I always get 1.5, so it's already registered in my head that it's 1.5. So I'm just going to mark that out. Next, I marked up my underbust. My underbust has always been 13.5 inches. The reason for running up my underbust this time is because most of it in my draft requires me identifying my underbust. So here we go. So next, my waist is 16. That's shoulder to waist is 16 inches. So I marked that out also. After that, I marked 25 inches for my hip. Next, I just drew a line across. Next, I started imputing my horizontal measurements, my curves and my lines to create my basic bodice block pattern. So I started with my back width. My back width is 16 inches divided by 2. That is 8 inches. I marked that out. Then I went ahead to mark up my neck width. That is the same measurement as my the vertical measurement. That's 1/4 inches, and I connected the 2 points. Next, I marked my bust measurement as my bust circumference divided by 4. I marked that on my armhole depth line. Next, I connected the back width to the armhole line, just the same 8 inches. So this will help me create my armhole curve. Before creating my armhole curve, I decided to mark out my waist circumference and my hip circumference. So that's my waist circumference divided by 4 because I'm drafting in quarter. Then also my hip circumference divided by 4. So I just marked all that out. Next, I marked my shoulder slant, which is 1.5 inches, then connected that to the neck. Next, I marked the midpoint of my armhole depth. That's from the shoulder slant down to the armhole depth. I marked the midpoint there. Then from the armhole depth line up, I marked 1 inch. This is just a guideline to create the curve. Okay, so from that midpoint, I went in a quarter of an inch. So all these are just guidelines to create the perfect armhole curve. With those guidelines, I created my armhole curve. I just curved until I got that perfect armhole curve. Next, I connected all the point, that is from the armhole depth to the waist and from the waist down to the hip. After that, I decided to create my that. Okay, so that can come in handy. I'm only using 1-inch that. I'm going to be creating my dart on the waist. Also, you can get your dart point by getting your bust distance. My bust distance is 8 inches, so 8 inches divided by 2, it's 4. Or another way is to get the midpoint of your waist, and that will be your dart point. So you can go up either 5 inches or you can go up 4 inches, depending on what design you want to do. But for this one, I'll just be going up 4 inches and down 4 inches. So you just watch how I created my dart. It's just easy peasy. After drafting my basic bodice block pattern, I'm going to darken all the lines so it can be more visible. So next, what I did was to add the dots other ones at the waist and reconnect the points, creating a new waist. Next, I marked out guidelines to create the neck curve. So from that point here, I marked in 1/2 inch, and from the up point there, I marked 1/4 inch. Then I used those guidelines to create the neck curve. That is all for drafting my front basic bodice block pattern. So what I did was to fold my pattern paper in half. Then I proceeded to trace the front pattern with the tracing wheel so it can reflect on the other side of the pattern paper. Then I went ahead to modify it, just the armhole and the neck. That is all I did that's the only thing I changed for the front basic bodice block pattern to get the back. So stay tuned and watch. Next, I'm going to retrace all those wheel lines with my pencil. As you can you see them? I hope so. So I'm just going to retrace them quickly with my pencil, and I'm going to make it really light. I'm using a pen to draft here, so whatever mistake or whatever errors I make, I can just rectify it by using my eraser to erase it. So let's go ahead to modify the neck and the armhole. So for the neck, I just went down and created a guideline to create the curve by going in 1/2 inch and going down 1/8, I think. After marking the guidelines, I proceeded to create my neck curve. To create the guideline for the back armhole curve, what I did was to go up at that point 1/2 inch, then got the midpoint of the armhole, then go in 1/8 inch, then recreate my armhole curve for the back bodice. Next, I darkened all the lines, then went ahead to cut out the pattern. Then onto the sleeve making. For my sleeve pattern, I used my leftover pattern, which was not up to the length of my sleeve, but I had to manage. So I folded it in half just to create a crease and opened it up, then drew a line along the crease. I drew a line at the top just to create a structure of my pattern, which is normal. So next, to get the cap height is okay, the calculation, let's go. The calculation is my armhole my two armhole divided by 3. That's the front and back armhole divided by 3. That is the cap height. Next, I marked my cap height, then I drew a line across. Next, I divided the front and back measurement into 2. That's the measurement divided by 2. Then I marked that on both sides of the sleeve. That's the front and back side, creating a triangle. Next, I divided the triangle into 4. First, I divided it into half. Then I divided the half into half. Next, I drew a line down from the sleeve width down to the sleeve length. This is not my actual sleeve length. That is where the pattern paper ends. So I just drew the line all the way down before creating my cap height curve. Alright, now guidelines to create my sleeve curve. So for my sleeve curve, for the up point, I drew a line outside. While for the down point, I drew a line inside. For the front side up, I used 3/4 inch, while for the down part, I used 4/8 inch. Now for the back, for the top side, I use 1 inch, while for the down, I use 1/4. With those guidelines, those points up there, I created my sleeve cap height curve. At the top there, you can add like 1/4 inch just to separate, so it will not be too sharp at the top of the cap height. Next, I marked up my waist measurement by using my biceps measurement. The length of my pattern paper is not my actual sleeve length. My sleeve length is 25 inches, but this length I don't know, so I'm not going to be using the exact waist measurement because I'm still going to use the sleeve pattern to create any design I want. So yes, you get your bicep divided by 2 and mark that on both sides of the sleeve. So mine is 12 inches or 12.5 inches, so you just mark that out, either 6 inches on the other side and 6 inches on the other side. Then you minus 2 inches if you want it to be fitted, or you minus 1 inch if you want it to be 1 inch, sorry, if you want it to be free, or 1.5 inch if you want it to be normal. I do that sometimes, especially when I have no idea of the person's mix measurement. I just use the bicep and minus 2 inches from it, and I am good to go. If there's any adjustment needed during fitting, I can just rush and do the adjustment. Okay, so here we go. Next, I created a new line connecting the 2 points together, and this is all for my sleeve. So all I need to do is just cut out the sleeve pattern, and I am ready to create my blouse. Please, the reason I did this pattern is to show beginners how to draft a basic fitted buttocks block pattern. And also I added weight, just a bit of weight, not so alarming. So I just wanted something that would fit well, so I don't need to do a lot of adjustments and that. So here you go, how to create a basic fitted block pattern. You can try your sleeve, like what I'm doing right now. You can just try it and see if it works. It's just gonna be like a few space left, which is all good. Trust me, all good.